Good morning. We're all ready to go, and this morning we are doing estimates on Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts and Recreation, and welcome everybody for coming this morning. First we're going to do the substitutes. So for MHA Party we have MHA Dwyer, for MHA Forsey we have MHA Din, for MHA Brown we have MHA Din. We have MHA Tripper, we have MHA Abbott, for MHA Gam Walsh, we have MHA Cody, and for MHA Cora, we have MHA Reed. So again, welcome, and of course a little bit of housekeeping items. When you speak, we ask you to wave so you'll be identified, and each time wait for the light to come on, the tally light, and each time you speak we ask you to give us your name and position, so for the record, so they can keep track of who is speaking. Please do not adjust your chairs, and the coolers are on this side and right here if anybody would like some water. So I guess what we will do is we have the minutes of the last meeting, so I will ask for a mover. So MHA Dwyer move, and second by MHA Cody. All in favor? Carried. Now we're going to introduce all the groups, so we're going to start with MHA.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Jeff Dwyer, MHA for Presidential West Bellevue.
Glenn Littlejohn, political researcher.
Craig Party, MHA for the District of Bonavista.
Jim Din, MHA for St. John.
Okay.
Jim Din, MHA for St. John Center.
Stephen Kent, Research Assistant for the Third Party Caucus.
Siobhan Cody, St. John's West.
Scott Reed, MHA, St. George's Humber.
John Abbott, St. John's East, Kitty Bitty.
Eileen Anderson, GMO.
Hand up.
Can I go home now? Steve Crocker, Minister of Tourism, Culture, Arts and Recreation.
Jamie O'Day, Deputy Minister of Tourism, Culture, Arts and Recreation.
Ben Gardner, Assistant Deputy Minister of Film, Television, Recreation and Sport.
Carol Ann Gilliard, I'm the Assistant Deputy Minister for Tourism.
Jennifer Torville, Departmental Controller.
Caroline Orsborn, Executive Director of Celebrate NL.
Christina Harrington, Assistant Deputy Minister, Arts and Culture.
Adrienne Luther, Director of Communications.
Is that everybody? Okay, before we ask the Minister to bring greetings, I'm going to ask the Clerk to call the first headings, please.
For the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts and Recreation, 1.1.01 to 1.2.03 inclusive, executive and support services.
Okay, so 1.1.01 to 1.2.03. Now I ask the Minister to start off. And
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to everybody this morning for being here. And as a department, we certainly look forward to the opportunity to review the estimates for TCAR. This is always an important opportunity to go through the commitments that we've made for the coming fiscal year. And, I won't take a lot of time, but 2025, 2026 will be another extremely busy year for this department. We're seeing very strong indications of a very successful tourism season. This is the year of sport, which will bring a lot of opportunity for sport, culminating into the Canada Summer Games this August right here in St. John's. So a lot of exciting stuff's happening, and just so I don't forget at the end, I do want to take a moment to thank everybody here this morning from the department, because it's their hard work that get us here and put all the time that goes into these binders. And as I said earlier, and I'll say now for the record, I think this is my 10th time doing estimates since the first time the Minister of Finance has been present, so I kind of feel like the Supreme Court judge is here this morning. So if I'm on extra tight behavior, it's because I don't want to screw up something that I told her I was going to do or wasn't going to do. So I'll turn it over to the committee and look forward to the next 45 minutes or so.
Thank you, Minister Crocker. So we're going to start off with questions. So the first round of questions is 15 minutes, and after that, every session, every amount of questions will be 10 minutes, and we will go back and forth, the same as in previous minutes. So MHA Dwyer, please.
Thank you and good morning, and thank your staff as well, Minister, for being here and preparing the estimates for the 24-25 budget, or to talk about that one, but to also talk about the preparation of the 25-26 budget. For you to say that you feel like you're got the Supreme Court judge in here, she's looking over my shoulder. So I don't know, maybe I might get some post-it notes to ask the minister some questions. So I don't know, maybe we'll be here longer than 45 minutes. But no, we have some questions, and like I said, we know that things are improving dramatically with our tourism sector. And again, with our culture, arts, recreation, and heritage. So it's nice to be able to carry on with the initiatives that we have and create new initiatives to exalt, I guess, our province. So I'll start off, Minister, with just general introductory questions, I guess, about the department itself. And can you outline the department's attrition plan?
There is no attrition plan. I think the last time the department had an attrition plan was 21-22.
Were there any positions that were removed last year?
So at the end of the year last year, end of employment, there were 93 of these, but those 93 would be everything from a 13-weeker coming to an end. We have a large seasonal staff when you think about the provincial parks and the provincial historic sites. So yeah, we do have a lot of people that retire, but our vacancy rate is below the 5% mandated vacancy rate.
Okay, perfect. How many people are employed in the department? How many contractual and how many temporary?
So there's 107 permanent staff in the department, 54 temporary, 146 seasonal, 7 contract, for a total of 314.
Okay, thank you. Into the Minister's office, 1.1.01. Minister, on the transportation and communications, does this include the Minister's travel? And can we get a list of the trips and their costs and who travel with the Minister?
You certainly can get that list. It's something we'll have to get for you. It's not something we would have at hand, but yeah, absolutely. So yes, this is the cost of the Minister's office, the Minister's travel for the whole year, for the combination.
Okay.
Yep.
And thank you. And under transportation and communications, under 1.2.01, does that cover, who does that cover outside of the Minister's office for travel?
That would cover the entire executive. So I think there are 5, maybe 6 staff. 5. There are 5 senior staff that would be budgeted through that budget line.
Okay, thank you. Still in General Administration 1.2.02, There's a significant discrepancy on salaries from budget to revise of 24-25, and the estimate is increased. What is the reason for the discrepancy?
So the discrepancy would be 2 vacancies during the fiscal year. The policy analyst and the director, both are now filled, and the increase would be just reflect the salary plan increase, stepped increases, and negotiated wage increases.
Okay. Thank you. Are we moving into 2.0? No. Okay. Yeah, so that'll be good for that section. Thank
Further
you.
questions? All right, MHA Dean.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Minister, and your staff for taking time to answer our questions. General question, could you provide us with an update on the process to open a new mid-sized theatre in St. John's, and how many people does a mid-sized theatre accommodate?
So the planning for the mid-sized theatre is a carryover from, it's actually in the TI estimates, obviously. The carryover, there was $8 million in 24-25, and that carried over into this fiscal year. So again, the planning for that would be with TI, and I honestly can't tell you right now exactly what stage of the planning that is at with TI. I know there has been some work done around an RFP. And the design of the mid-sized theatre, and what we heard from the arts community and from earlier work that we've done around it, the number that we've always used is around 400. And there's a lot of reasons why that number is used. And if you talk to the community, what they would tell you is, for example, the Arts and Culture Centre would hold approximately 1,000 to 1,200 people. But to make a long-standing show, for example, a theatre performance or a musical, you need time to span it out over, and in order to attract, you need that right size of a theater that you can do 30 days, because, for example, with a 1,200 seat theater, it's just too quick, too intense, and that's the logic behind the design of a 400-ish seat facility.
So how, if I may, then how would that compare, let's say, to the size of the Majestic Theatre? I'm just trying to, I forget the number of seats.
I think the Majestic Theatre is somewhere between around 250, I think, of fixed seating, and I do believe at the Majestic they do have some flex where they can bring seating into the front of the theatre for additional seating.
Thank you. And a general question then, with regards to the film industry and the effect of tariffs, I'm just looking at, I'm sure we get productions from outside. I'm just wondering how tariffs would affect the film industry here in the province.
So right now we haven't seen any effects. It could, the current situation is actually extremely attractive for the U.S. industry. Looking at Canada, certainly because of our dollar position, and we've seen that growth. And I think that's some of the opportunity we have when you look at some of the major Canadian filming locations, whether it be Vancouver or Toronto. They're so busy right now that we're having people that probably wouldn't have looked at Newfoundland and Labrador, and we've set a very strong foundation for the film industry here now with the increases to the equity and the all-spend tax credit, and that's why I think we've now landed our first major Netflix series, which we'll be filming here this summer. It will be the largest location production we've ever done. And I thank the Minister of Finance. She raised the cap on the all-spend, and it was highlighted in the budget this year from $10 to $20 million, and that was not primarily driven, but this Netflix series that's coming this summer was the driver behind that, because before we never had a show that would need a cap above $10 million. Disney was about $10 million, yeah, but Netflix will go much above $10 million.
Excellent. Thank you. Maybe we could all get cameras.
Oh, sorry, and just one more thing on that, if you don't mind,
yeah.
MHA Dean. There is some, to your tariff question, there is some concern in the industry, because the president has indicated from time to time that he could tariff the arts. We just hope he doesn't, but that could be a challenge going forward.
Excellent. That's good to know. Possible to have an update on the efforts to sell off Marble Mountain?
Sure. So we had an RFP that closed on Wednesday, budget day. Unfortunately, there were no expressions of interest in the sale or in a purchase for Marble Mountain. So as you would have seen in Wednesday's budget, there was a commitment to Marble Mountain. The operating budget for Marble Mountain increased by $600,000. That was reflective. So I think the operating budget at Marble Mountain next year now is about $900,000. The reality is it has been that for quite some time, but it wasn't, you know, we were kind of always in a situation where they were short on cash and we were helping them out. This is a right size of the budget. We will continue to, I guess, work to ensure that Marble Mountain can continue. It's a very important piece of infrastructure to the west coast of this province. If you talk to the hospitality operators, you know, it's extremely important, and we can see it in our numbers that on the west coast we have higher occupancy rates than anywhere else in the province in the winter months. But obviously it is challenged. It's challenged by climate change, and we've seen throughout that, you know, the future of Marble Mountain certainly relies in more four-season activities.
And if I may, that's the next question. What are the four-season activities you're looking at?
There's tremendous opportunity in mountain biking, and when we're working with the Western Newfoundland Labrador, I'm going to get this wrong, but Mountain Bike, I'm going to say Coalition. You know, they have some trails around that area currently, and last year we actually worked with them to tie into Marble Mountain. We've gauged the lightning lift right now to go to the top of the hill and return. So now the lift can go up. Previously the lift couldn't come back down with people on it because it wasn't gauged that way. It's now gauged to do that, and we've looked at one of the things we've looked at doing and are continuing to explore is actually putting rigging on the back of the chairlift so you can take your bike up. So that is one of the things that we're seeing as a tremendous opportunity. Yeah, as the deputy is helping me out very much here, the cruise ship industry is somewhere else. Last year, Corner Brook has a blossoming, booming cruise ship industry, and last year we worked with the cruise lines to actually sell Marble Mountain as an excursion. So, and it was the #1 selling excursion on the west coast of come to Marble. They take you to the top. We've, in the last number of years, constructed a beautiful new deck right on the top of the mountain, so you take your cruise ship visitor up, let them have the panoramic view of the Bay of Islands, and you bring them back down and sell them lunch in the chalet. So, you know, those are the opportunities that we're seeing.
No, that's excellent. I know I visited Whistler years ago when I was with the NLTA, but they're using this an active mountain biking, so it was a good way. They would come down. It was a fantastic way to use it year-round. And I know in some of these places they also have a restaurant at the top, so you can eat there and look around. Anyway, or even for that matter, hike up and come back down. Right? That's good. Maybe that's the not only the solution for that ski hill, but even something like White Hills and the others as well. Right?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. You know. Marble Mountain, you know, would typically, I think the goal was always to open Marble Mountain on Boxing Day. That was how it was in the past, and you'd close down around now. But, you know, we managed to get February 1st to March 31st this year. I think it was 57 or 58 ski days.
Perfect. Appreciate that. Chair, has there been any progress in the proposal for the Eagle River Waterway Provincial Park in Labrador?
That's a challenging file. One that was actually on my desk first when I got in this department. But we have to continue to work with our Indigenous partners on that file, and I'm going to turn it over to Carol Ann, I think, maybe for just a second, because I know she would be more involved in that file. But yeah, we continue to work that file, but it has to be done in step with our Indigenous partners.
Carol Ann Gilliard. I'm the Assistant Deputy Minister for Tourism. We continue, as the Minister said, to engage with our Indigenous organizations, but we have made some progress in the establishment and doing some of the foundational work of assessments, ecological assessments, getting an understanding of the biodiversity in the region. And we have advanced some of the work in preparing the maps and proposed boundaries and that type of thing. So it is slow progression, but moving all the same.
Thank you. And that's it, Chair, for my questions on that section.
Thank you, MHAD. Any further questions, MHA? Not in this section? Okay. I hear no further questions. I ask the clerk to recall the subtitles.
1.1.01 to 1.2.03 inclusive, executive and support services.
Shall 1.1.01 to 1.2.03 carry? All those in favor? Against? Carried. All right, moving forward, I ask the clerk to call the next set of subheadings.
2.1.01 to 2.2.03 inclusive, tourism.
Shall 2.1.01 to 2.2.03? We will start questions. MHA Dwyer.
Chair, just at Chair, just at the start of proceedings, you said that Pleeman Forsey was subbed out for, but the next name that you said was Jim Din, but I'm the one that substituted for Pleeman Forsey. I just want to make sure that it was clear what Hansard.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Minister, recently your department announced new funding for air access, and shortly thereafter the federal government announced additional funding for Atlantic Canada. And is that the Atlantic Canada Tourism Partnership?
No, that's an additional funding from the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency. I think Minister Hutchings announced that during the HNL conference. There's a $2 million a year commitment for 3 years through a HOA, so $6 million in total. That's the design behind that is to address some of the challenges regionally in Atlantic Canada. I think from Newfoundland and Labrador's perspective, it certainly is an opportunity for us to grow or work to grow our intra-provincial travel situation. Yeah. So and obviously, you know, quite honestly, you know, this announcement is made, and now we're in a caretaker mode. So really, we haven't had the time or the ability to really delve into what it is we can do with that. But we do know from work that's been done by the Council of Atlantic Premiers. They initiated this work maybe 2 years ago, and this is a result of the work that they've done as a group of premiers on reviving air access in Atlantic Canada. We're very fortunate in Newfoundland and Labrador to have an airline that's actually based here, because if you think about connectivity, and I know the geography is not quite as challenging, but if you think about the challenges around Atlantic Canada right now, like in order pretty much to get to PEI, for us, as an example, we either got to fly to Halifax or fly to Montreal and fly back. So, you know, it's addressing some of those inter-provincial challenges, and for us, it's an opportunity to address some intra-provincial challenges, I do believe.
Where's that reflected to in the budget? Like,
so that wouldn't be reflected in, obviously, the COA money wouldn't be reflected, obviously, in our money, but I think our commitment to air access is reflected into the commitment of the additional $2 million this year that the minister, announced for Vision 2026 and air access.
So, of the $6 million allocation by the federal government, what's the province's share, and where will it be directed? So, there hasn't been, or to date, obviously, there hasn't been a formula based on that. From our perspective, I think what we would want to see, and it depends which part of the island you're talking about. If you're thinking about, you know, Labrador, I think some of the focus could certainly be on connectivity with somewhere either in Atlantic Canada, like better connectivity with Halifax, for example, because Labrador is tremendous tourism growth opportunity, and I think a lot of that would be based in Halifax. So depending on what, you know, that would be something that might be interested for Labrador. But if you think about the island itself, it's, you know, better connectivity on the island itself to line up with what other airlines are coming in. So it's really about building that extra leg on, from the way we see it. If somebody flies in here from Toronto, but their ultimate destination is Gander, how do we put that other segment onto their flight? How do we make sure that there's a seamless transition from an Air Canada flight from Toronto to St. John's to Gander? So that's the type of thing that we see for the island. So again, because of our geography, we certainly have to, it's not a one-size-fits-all on this island because of our geography. One of the things, and to allude to what you your answer, one of the things that, you know, God bless him, Pat White just passed away this year. One of the things that he talked about, so important to the province for intra-travel, was the network, and developing that network and making sure that there's more options, which would cut down then, like, and options I mean in competition, so that it would cut down on price. Out of the $50 million allocated for tourism marketing, the base budget plus the $2 million for Vision 2026.
$15 million that was allocated.
Yeah, that'll show up in, so that shows up purchase services in, 2.1.0.
Yeah.
That's our base budget, and the additional 2.1.03 is the additional $2 million.
Okay, and that's going
services
directly towards Vision 26?
Well, yeah, because Vision 26, obviously you're familiar with Vision 26, but Vision 26 puts us out there, and obviously, in order to be successful in Vision 2026, the biggest challenge that the Newfoundland and Labrador tourism industry faces is access, whether it's by water or whether it's by air. And if you look at all the goals of Vision 2026, the underlying goal is access, and that's why we've seen it as a priority this year to blend the two, because in order to get to the desired goal of Vision 2026, access is the foundation. It's fundamental.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with that, because even on the marine side, I mean, Marine Atlantic is really an extension of the Trans-Canada Highway for this island, and I think that falls short, I guess, of people that are not using it for daily purposes kind of thing. But recently the federal government agreed to stop payment on the Confederation Bridge, but Marine Atlantic costs continue to rise. Minister, can we expect the same treatment as our island friends in PEI?
I would say 100% absolutely yes. We do expect the same treatment as anybody else. Those statements have been made, and I will challenge the next Prime Minister of Canada, the next Transportation Minister, the next Tourism Minister, that Canada is made up of 10 provinces and 3 territories, and we expect the exact same treatment.
Absolutely.
And not only do we expect the exact same treatment, we expect the exact same treatment in a fair and modern way. Yeah. It's not just about adding capacity and not keeping up to the standards that they've developed, because I'll give Marine Atlantic some credit. They've upped their game when it comes to the equipment that they're using to cross the Gulf, and we would expect that same type of equipment to be used going forward.
In 2.1.02, the reduction in purchase services related to the no-exit survey being completed this year?
Sorry, Amy. That's the movement of money. Sorry, Jeff, MHA Dwyer, could you repeat the question?
In 2.1.02,
okay,
the reduction in purchase services, is that related to no-exit strategy survey? Because we had a robust one the year before, but it was less robust.
Right, so 6. Yeah, that reflects the one-time funding for the visitors exit survey. We don't do a full-blown exit survey every year. You just add to that data, right? You collect your data, and then you roll it and roll it and roll it until the time you decide, well, it's time to do another exit survey. But we will continue to do exit work, but we'll use the foundation that came out of this bigger, more wholesome survey to inform the next number of years.
Okay.
Sort of like nanos.
Yeah. So we have a fully integrated marketing program. Is this contracted out or done by core government?
The marketing program is done by our agency of record.
Pardon? Sorry?
It's done in conjunction between the department's marketing division and our agency of record, which would be Target Media or Target Communications at this time.
And that's what I was going to ask you. If it's contracted out, can we get a list of contractors? Is it only Target Marketing?
So it is. Yeah, so we have an agency of record, and that is Target, and we've just completed an RFP recently for the renewal of our agency of record.
Okay, and they were successful again?
I'm not sure if that has been all compiled to date.
Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't been awarded. It hasn't been awarded to date.
Okay, in the what would be the money in this in 2.1.03 strategic product development? What is the money in this section be part of the partnership funding we have seen in your department partnering with IET? Can you provide a list of these partnerships announcements and the amounts allocated?
So that's IET's money, right? Yeah, that would actually be a question for IET, because we only feed into their processes. When the two,
They hold the money.
yeah, they hold the money. When the departments split, the money, the funding exercise went to IET.
Okay. So we're not contributing. This department's not contributing any money.
No, we don't put money in. We just put I get quotes. I get quotes in our news release.
We're the think tank.
and we do get eyes on, like, if it's a tourism-related proposal, it does come to TCAR for comment. But we do not. We're not a funding agency for those announcements.
Okay. Because, yeah, like one of the things that I noticed that in the mandate kind of thing, it says about competitive tourism products which demonstrate long-term economic value. And I think that's where we should be headed with a lot of different places, I guess, in rural Newfoundland, is about ecotourism and giving people a longer experience, I guess, in certain areas as opposed to a day trip. It could be a 2 or 3 day trip with implements on the trails and stuff that we're developing all the time, obviously, through our funding. Are we... when it comes to this funding, are we refunding existing projects or are we funding new initiatives? And what's the percentage for each?
Again, I think it would be some would be both. We can certainly try and get you that number. It would be that would be IET's information. Okay. But I think we could certainly we could certainly endeavor to get some of that information for you.
MHA, your time is up. We're going to pass down. We can come back for more questions afterwards. MHA Din.
With regards to the access and opportunity, I'm just wondering with regards to the trailways infrastructure, the and upkeep, bridges in particular, and some of them are probably nearing their best before date, or if not past. I'm just wondering as maintaining that infrastructure.
Yeah, good question. Again, we work very closely with IET on this, and IET works with the HOA and the Trailway Foundation, or the Trailway Group, the council, right? We fund the council every year. I think it's $150,000 worth of core funding that we give to the Trailway Council, and they maintain, because right now I think we're talking about the provincial park, the Trailway Provincial Park right across the island. Yeah. Last year, through IET and the Trail Council, and I think COA, we did there was a study completed about the short-term, medium-term, and long-term needs of that trail. You're absolutely correct that we were challenged every time we have an environmental event, primarily on the West Coast. You know, we have washouts. You know, the culverts are old. So there's a lot of work being done here. I think 2 budgets ago, we increased the capital budget for the provincial park system as a whole, which the Trailway is a part of, from $50,000 to $500,000. So we are now able to do more and more capital infrastructure work, not only on the Trailway but in our provincial parks. But it's a crucial piece of growing tourism. We see it more and more all the time. Marine Atlantic will tell you the number of ATVs that are coming across the Gulf to do the Newfoundland loop continues to grow. This year we worked with the Trailway Council actually through an initiative that they came to us for. They wanted to charge non-residents a $100 permit. So now if you come from outside the province and want to use the Trailway, the Provincial Park Trailway, there is a $100 fee, and that money goes directly to the Trailway and is directly invested back. And that has been met with we were the only trail in eastern Canada that didn't have a non-resident fee. So now we have a $100 non-resident fee, and that money goes directly back into the Trail Council.
So if I may, then there's a plan, like I'm thinking of it like the bridge, the old railway bridges across the Terranova River, or even across the Northwest River, like there's beautiful spots, but I'm just, so there is a plan more or less to replace them if they need.
Yeah, so the study was completed. Yeah. You know, it's all contemplated. It's all very expensive. Yeah. But again, we have a really strong relationship with the Trailway Council, and we'll continue to do so. And they've done a great job actually in leveraging by using the Trailway Council. Yeah. As I guess a somewhat of a governing body. They've done a really good job in leveraging a COA and IET funding to do work on the Trailway.
Thank you very much. Since the Tourist Accommodations Act was amended last December, is it possible to provide us with the number of units registered?
Yeah.
And preferably, you may not be able to do it now, but preferably by unit size and region of the province.
Yeah, that's something certainly MHA did that we can delve down into for you. I think when we started the process in April of 2024, when we started the registration process, there were 700 registered accommodators in this province, and it's been tremendously successful to the point right now there are 2,700 registered accommodators in this province. So we now have a registry that was 700, that's now 2,700.
Thank you very much. In 2.102 sector research, how many visitors did we receive in 2024 from the rest of Canada and from versus other countries? And how do these numbers compare with 2023?
I'll turn that to Carol Ann for that breakdown, if you don't mind.
Sure thing.
Hi, Carol Ann Gilliard, ADM for Tourism. Combined with Air and Auto last year, we had approximately about 443,000 non-residents come to the province. About 80% of that number came by air. The number that we don't have included yet is the cruise numbers. And that would bring us in another, it could be 50 to 60,000. We don't have that calculation yet. So it's over 500,000 non-residents that come to the province last year.
Is there a breakdown then between those who came from the rest of the country and versus those from outside?
Yes. Yeah, we have estimates on the origins of people coming to the province, yeah.
And would it be possible to have those numbers?
We can certainly get those for you.
Thank you. And I guess overall then, how does that number compare with 2023?
In 2024, we were down slightly, about 3%. In auto and air. I don't have the cruise, so we probably broke even when we add in the cruise numbers, but just air and auto was down about 3%. But when you look at visitors to the province, it's made up of a number of different traveler types. So you have business travelers, you have visiting friends and relatives. When you look at the vacation market, which is what we're trying to attract with our marketing dollars, we've seen year-over-year increases in that market, and that's actually making up for losses in business travel, business events, and downturn in meetings and conventions.
Are you expecting this year, considering the turbulence in the States, and an increase or a decrease? Are you anticipating an increase or a decrease or status quo?
Face for radio. Face for radio, voice for newspaper. What we're hearing, early indications are it's going to be a very busy season, what we're hearing from our operators. And an interesting thing we're hearing from some of our operators who deal with our U.S. market, and bearing in mind that our primary U.S. market is the Eastern Seaboard, is there's a keen interest from Americans living on the Eastern Seaboard to still come to Newfoundland, Labrador, to Atlantic Canada, and we're reassuring them in any way, shape, and form that we can that we're still welcoming, because that's the type of question we've started to receive is, can we come to Newfoundland and Labrador? Are you still welcome? And the answer is absolutely. You're 100% welcome.
Great. Good. One last question then. Does the department currently have any projections or forecasts regarding the number of tourists that the new air routes to Europe will bring here?
It's tough to forecast. We do know that last year's link to London Gatwick was extremely successful. Early indications are very strong sales on all of the routes, the new routes this year, continued strength in London Gatwick, a strength in Dublin, but very interestingly, the new St. John's Paris flight was very into the first 6-7 weeks of that announcement one of WestJet's top 3 selling new destinations, new routes for this upcoming season, and we see, incremental. It'll be a slow go, I would think, but that first direct link, first ever time that we have now direct connectivity to continental Europe is something that has a lot of opportunities for this province.
Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. All right, MHA Dwyer.
Are we going to vote on this section?
We can vote.
Are you still? We're still in this section?
2.101 to 2.103, we can vote on that if you
We
want.
can vote on that now? All right. I see no further questions, so I ask the clerk to recall the subheadings, please.
2.1.01 to 2.2.03 inclusive tourism.
Shall 2.1.01 to 2.202. All those in favor? Against? Carry. I ask,
1.01. We just done 2.1.
we're on 2.1.01 to 2.2.03. Do you still have questions on that? Okay. Yes, you do.
Yes,
Oh, 2.2.0. Oh, okay.
Yes, so you still have questions, okay?
I thought it was 2.1. I wasn't hearing it.
No,
Sorry about that.
you go right
Okay,
ahead.
Minister, the, oh,
MHA Dwyer.
thank you. Sorry about the confusion there. I wasn't picking up on the second point. I got your answer there about the RFP closing on Marble Mountain. Is there going to be a new RFP issued, and when?
MHA.
Yeah, there are no plans to do a new RFP. The RFP was out. It was well publicized. I would put it in this context is, we've went through that process. There was a lot of due diligence, a lot of effort put into that process. It obviously wasn't successful, but, from where I sit right now, and I think as where we are as a government, we are open to interest from Marble Mountain. So if you know somebody who has interest in investing in what I think has great opportunity as a 4-season resort, please send them our way. We're more than interested to talk to whomever that might be interested in a purchase of Marble Mountain.
Is there a market value assessment of the facility, and would there be like a minimum bid for an RFP?
That's something that would have to come out in a negotiation. I'm going to be frank with you. It would be really based on a business case. The actual price tag on Marble Mountain, to me, has a lot more to do with what we can get out of future economic value for Marble Mountain. If somebody came to me and had a good, I guess say me, but to the department, I would be willing to come forward with anything that continues a successful Marble Mountain. I don't think anybody thinks that we're going to go out and get a major price tag for Marble Mountain. But I think what we want for Marble Mountain, what we want for that region of the province, is the ability to continue to maintain the economic value, the 120 jobs. That's where I see the value in Marble Mountain.
And that was the reason for the question, really, was to extend the value, I guess, to whoever's going to be bidding, to understand that it is a 4-season resort and that it does have great value. Did Marble Mountain make any money this past season? And you did indicate in the interview that the seasons are getting shorter.
Yeah, so no, Marble Mountain is obviously not turning a profit. The seasons are getting shorter. Challenges around, operating a ski hill are increasing. But, because of the economic value that it brings to the west coast of the province, and social value and recreational value as well, because it is a tremendous recreational facility for people who live on the west coast and people throughout the entire island to enjoy. But yeah, it doesn't turn a profit, as you can see in the binder.
And it is absolutely a beautiful facility, and I hope we do get good value in return for our investment. In recent years, capital works has been going on at Marble Mountain. Last year, there was a significant operational issue at the mountain, yet the estimate document indicates that the capital repairs came right in on budget. I ask, is this the actual capital repair number for the fiscal year?
Yeah, they would have to work within their capital budget, so they would submit to the Department a capital budget plan. You know, we would receive their as was in Wednesday's budget. You know, we've allocated them $850,000 for capital this year. So in the coming weeks, you know, we will get their capital plan for 2025, 2026.
So once they receive that capital, once the capital is exhausted, does the work just stop, or?
Well, you know, obviously, it's run by an effective board of directors and CEO. So yeah, they budget within their means. Now, that's not to say that Marble Mountain may not come to us throughout the year and say, look, there's a capital expenditure here, and here's a business case why we could do that capital expenditure. But yeah, you know, right now they have an $850,000 capital budget for 25, 26, and you know, obviously they will have to plan within that budget.
So let me get through that question. Yeah. Are all our provincial parks now solar and carbon friendly? And what is the capital cost to finish this work if it's not already completed?
I'm going to quickly turn to Carol Ann, I think.
Carol Ann? Keep waving until you. Okay.
Carol Ann Gilliard, ADM of Tourism. Yes, we made an effort a few years ago to get the last 3 parks off of diesel generators, so they were equipped with solar at that time. So they are.
Okay. Yeah. So there's no more ongoing equipment that needs to be bought for any more parks, provincial parks, to be off diesel?
No.
Okay,
no.
Perfect. Thank you. That's a great answer. Okay.
She gives great answers. I don't hear you saying I
I'll save you for the end just in case, because you're doing more answers.
You do have to bouquet over there.
I did.
Not a chance.
Yeah. Moving to Pippi Park, the doubling of the capital budget for the park, is that for the preparations for the Canada Games? And will these upgrades be completed in time for the Games?
Yeah, so last year we invested $900,000, I was going to say $900 million, $900,000 for capital upgrades at Pippi. And this is actually, this 450K this year is to complete some of that work. That's the addition of, this year we're going to see a pickleball court, North America's fastest growing sport, some rentals on Mount Sion Road, some new office furniture, an accessibility ramp for a front entrance, and some just general repairs and maintenance around their headquarters and offices. And this investment in last year's budget was about, you know, making sure the park is ready for 2025.
Can we get a list of those specific upgrades?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm stopping at the. Thank you.
So you're finished with this section, and
Yes.
MHA, Dean, you don't have any further questions, so I'm going to ask the clerk to recall the subheadings, please.
2.1.01 to 2.2.03 inclusive, tourism.
Shall 2.1.01 to 2.2.03 carry? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Carried. All right, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the next set of subheadings, please.
3.1.01 to 3.1.07 inclusive, arts and culture.
Shall 3.1.01 to 3.1.07? And we're going to start the next round of questions. MHA Dwyer.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Arts and culture centers. Are all our arts and culture centers, or any of them, I should say, in need of any significant repairs, and are all up to code with our new accessibility legislation?
Yes. The physical properties are properties of transportation infrastructure. So any upgrades or any infrastructure requests that we have for the ACCs go through they go through TI. You know, there's always work that can be done. You know, we leveraged some Heritage Canada money, I think, last year for some upgrades. We've been doing upgrades as we can, but you know, like in fairness, like all government infrastructure, there are always needs. But you know, we've made improvements. I know in Gander we had a major challenge around air conditioning and HVAC that we're able to fix. So you know, we do address the needs as we can, but you know, obviously there's always work to be done. But you know, I think our ACCs are operating in a very good fashion and are well positioned.
So do any money come out of the TCAR budget to go to TI to get any of that work done?
So that would be in TI's budget. That's just,
that's
we're just the I guess in a weird way, we're just the leaseholder when it comes to, you know, we're the occupant. We're the operator of the facility, but they are TI's buildings.
So our funding when it comes to them is about programming and staffing more than it is about the bricks and mortar.
You nailed it.
Okay.
We're the operator.
Yeah, okay. 3.1.02, Arts, Heritage and Historic Development. Was the work on the Arts and Culture Centre at Point Amore Lighthouse completed and on budget? And what work is ongoing for this fiscal year?
So do you have that?
I do not have it in my hand.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I would anticipate that the work at Point Amore, again, the work at Point Amore would have been a TI project, correct? Would have been a transportation infrastructure project, but I would anticipate that it was completed, but I would anticipate it came in on budget. It was a public tendering process, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something you can provide? Like
we could probably look into for your MHA, Dwyer. Okay. It's probably a question of TI, but yeah, we could probably see if we could derive it from them.
Sure. In 3.1.03, Newfoundland Labrador Arts Council, why was the $3 million decrease?
So there wasn't a decrease. It was a decrease year over year. They've maintained their $5 million budget. Yes. That was an infusion for Year of the Arts.
Yeah. Was there any money announced for the Cultural Economic Development Program and Arts Infrastructure and the Programming Fund?
Absolutely, and you can turn around and say a big thank you to the person behind you, because she did announce on Wednesday a $1 million increase to CEDP this fiscal year, with an additional $1 million increase to CEDP in the next fiscal year. So year over year, there will be a $2 million increase in CEDP, and we were in Year of the Arts, we introduced the AIP, Arts Infrastructure Program, as a pilot project. It was successful. We funded, I think, nearly 90 projects, sorry. And this year we were able to make that a permanent program.
Perfect. It's always good when there's money being set aside and the program works. So our built heritage is still evaporating, and once again, there's no increase in the budget. Why is that?
You're right. We have many challenges around built heritage, and you know, we do quarterly meetings with all of our agencies and boards that are responsible for this department, and their ongoing conversations. And I could take about an hour to go through this answer, but it's extremely challenging to make sure that we're focusing our funding in the right place when it comes to this. And the executive director would sit here and he'd tell you the same thing. And we're looking at ways now how to modernize that. And I think that act is
dated.
Yeah, the act is decades and decades dated. So, you know, and other jurisdictions have been finding ways to minimize the loss of built heritage while realizing there's no way that we will be able to continue to maintain every single piece of built heritage. It's just impossible. So modernization of the Act is certainly something that we're working with them now to review. Very similar to what we did last year with Arts NL and their Act. You know, to modernize it, because obviously it does need a modernization.
So we can expect some legislation in an upcoming session of the House?
I would say yes, in an upcoming session of the House, you will see an updated act.
Okay, thank you. Celebrate NL Inc. Can we have a list of the grants that have been given out under the program last year? And can we get the expenditures included in that?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Is the $1 million of the Trail of the Caribou commemoration ensuring young Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to remember generations of sacrifice? How many young students will be benefit from this funding?
So this is I guess an announcement that Premier Fury made last year around the 100th anniversary of the War Memorial and the repatriation of the unknown soldier, that we would expand the program to 100 students starting this year, and we are actually on track to do that. And I want to take a moment to thank the Deputy Minister and all the staff that are planning that, simply because we're going from, I think, 32 students previously that would go on the annual pilgrimage to 100 students this year. So that is quite the challenge.
Nightmare of logistics.
That's quite the challenge in itself, bearing in mind, we need approximately, to accommodate 100 students, we need 40 chaperones. So this is a big piece of logistic work. And again, we've made the commitment in this year's budget to raise the funding allocation to $1 million going forward. And again, this year's budget is the first time that we've had committed funding for Gallipoli, for Turkey. Yep. Previously, we've done the annual, what has become now an annual pilgrimage to Turkey in September, and now we have permanent funding for that. That program will not be the same as the trail, the pilgrimage, because certainly the numbers, and Turkey brings its own challenges when it comes to navigating and how you work in that system. So, but yeah, there is now a commitment here as well to an annual pilgrimage to Turkey.
Okay, so we're looking at 100 students benefiting, 40 chaperones, and does the chaperones include staff from the department?
No, there would obviously be staff from the department present. The deputy minister at the end of the day is the lead tour guide. but no, and I don't put light to that. The department is certainly on the ground and takes its responsibility to these people seriously. But that is the responsibility of the people, that, because the department doesn't. We don't hold any of these student allotments in the department. Historic Sites Association is our biggest partner. We also partner now with the Rangers. We partner with the Royal Canadian Legion. So those are our three partners. Oh, sorry, yes, and the minister behind you, and Indigenous Affairs also now has a piece of this. So we have 4 partners that provide us with the students.
Last year was certainly a proud year for our province in the repatriation of our unknown soldier and the upgrading to our war memorial. What is the cost currently for maintaining security on our national war memorial?
That's not information that I would have. That's a TI question. It's their no different than any other asset or physical asset of the province. It's in TI's responsibility.
And would that be shared with the federal government?
No. We do talk. We do have regular communications with the federal government on a number of initiatives around the War Memorial, but that is first and foremost Newfoundland's and Labrador's National War Memorial, so we won't cede any responsibilities for that one.
Okay. Last year, actually, with that 26 seconds, I'll start at the next section.
Just if I could quickly add, we did last year add the National War Memorial to our provincial historic sites inventory. So it's also now a provincial historic site. So it would benefit from our programs within our provincial historic sites.
Okay, so we're going to move on to MHAD now.
Thank you, MHA Din. 3.1.0 on arts and culture centers. Is there any money under this subsidy currently going to come from WAVE for this year? And how much did they receive last year?
So last year's investment income probably was $1 million, right? Yeah. So last year, so year one of Come From Away, I think our investment MHA did was, I'm going to fool this up, I'm going to say it anyway, was approximately $1.5 million. We carried, in year one of Come From Away, we were the holder. We produced it. We invested a lot. We did upgrades in Gander. We sold out all shows. Last year, the commitment to Come From Away was approximately $1 million, and last year they took it. I say they. Come From Away, Come From Away, You Are Here Inc. Took over the operations last year of Come From Away, and we provided them with a $1 million grant. This year, Come From Away Inc. has received a $500,000 investment from government, but I'll take a moment to just get this on the record. Michael Rubinoff, Jillian Kiley, the folks have produced Come From Away in Gander, have done a tremendous job. When we sat down with them 3 years ago and said, look, the province now owns the only licensed production on earth. We have the only license to do a licensed reproduction, and we hold the license, and we entrusted them with the license and saying, we'll get you off the ground in year one, and year two we brought them back to $1 million. Year three we're bringing them back to $500,000, and they're standing on their own, and sold out. We have not had a show yet in 2 years that hasn't been sold out.
Thank you very much. That's excellent. Yeah. Would it be possible to have, under 3.1.02 Arts, Heritage, and Historic Development, a list of the facilities receiving funding and the amounts for each as well?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Will there be any work budgeted this year for improvements or restorations of provincial heritage sites? I think you said that you won't be able to, if I heard you correctly, it may not be able to maintain all built heritage, but I'm just curious as which heritage sites will receive improvements. Well,
that's done through. So I think there's two there. There's provincial historic sites, which are our responsibility. Again, and I'm not throwing the load over on TI, but our provincial historic sites are actually maintained and property of transportation and infrastructure. They're provincially owned assets. The built heritage piece is different. That's done through Heritage NL. They're back to MHA Dar's question. Their budget was maintained, so they will continue to work through their budget.
Thank you very much. 3.1.03, the Newfoundland Labrador Arts Council. I think you sort of addressed this in my colleague's question, but many artists were pleased with the $2 million boost to grant funding in 2024 for a year of the arts, because inflation had eaten away at the previous increases made by government. And considering, I know it was the year of the arts, but why not make that increase permanent?
Valid, absolutely. The commitment that we've made to the arts it's been a commitment that hasn't been seen previously in the province. Bringing Arts NL up to to 5.5 million. They've done a tremendous job this year with taking a real hard look at their own programming, and they're in, I guess, year one of a new structure. And we met with them earlier this week. We're in a good spot. They were very pleased to see the additional commitment to CEDP, as well as the continued commitment to the AIP program. But we're working again through that division to align our programs to make sure that, going forward, absolutely make, budget increases, obviously will become necessary, but in the meantime, to align our programs so that we're getting the biggest impact from our dollars and making sure that the biggest beneficiary from the investments that we're making, close to 10 million, I would easily say over 10 million in direct grants either through the province or through Arts NL, to make sure we're getting the best impact and that money is landing in the place where we want it, which is in the pockets of artists.
Okay, so those discussions are ongoing.
Absolutely.
Perfect. With regards to 3.1.05 Celebrate NL, how many people are currently employed here?
6? 6.
And with regards to security for the War Memorial, has there ever been any discussion, I guess, with regards to the armed forces or, you know, taking on some of those responsibilities throughout the year as well?
Yeah, those are ongoing discussions around a Century program. So that is something that we're, you know, I said in response to an earlier question, you know, we're not going to cede the authority for our War Memorial to Canada. But with that being said, there are 2 national war memorials in Canada, one in Ottawa and one in St. John's. So, you know, we do regularly remind our federal colleagues that, you know, we do expect a similar treatment to the National War Memorial in Ottawa. So those are ongoing discussions.
Excellent, thank you. Under 3.1.07, Arts and Culture Centres Infrastructure, are there any significant renovations planned for arts and culture centres this year?
Again, significant investment in arts and culture centres would again come from transportation infrastructure. Again, the staff at the ACCs have done a good job. I think we received $1 million last year in Heritage Canada funding for some improvements. But, you know, we always look for those opportunities to do it within. But obviously, major renovations, major capital expenditures would come from transportation and infrastructure.
If I may ask it another way, have you identified any major improvements that transportation and infrastructure should carry out? If you're the operator.
We would absolutely have identified them, and I can certainly get you a list of things that we would have identified.
Perfect. That's good. Excellent. And that's it for me, Chair.
That's it for you. All right, MHA Dwyer.
Thank you. Just a couple of clear-up questions. Now that we've gone through, let's say, the 75th year Confederation and the Year of the Arts, what are the final numbers that are accounted for now that these events are no longer active?
Sorry.
How much money did we spend on these events through? And was all the funding exhausted, I guess, as well?
Yeah, so obviously the funding pots would have exhausted on March 31st.
Yeah.
But we did invest
approximately 16 million.
Yeah, over 2 fiscal years, approximately 16 million.
Right.
Over the 2 fiscal years, because there was investment in 23, 24, and 24, 25. Fiscal years fool me up, man.
Yeah. The other one. So what other celebrations are celebrating now funding with their $5 million budget this year?
The Year of Sport, they are the biggest single contributor to Year of Sport. You know, there's ongoing commitments. You know, we're funding a cultural festival this year where we incorporate arts and culture into the Canada Summer Games. So we provided the Canada Summer Games with a $500,000 grant for that program. They're a funder of the ECMAs, which are happening here in a couple of weeks. Okay, any more, Carol?
There you go.
Well, in addition, Caroline Horsborn.
Is your leader?
No.
All right, Carolyn.
Well, a big part of our mandate is event attraction too. So we're looking at events to bring here to the province. As Minister mentioned, ECMAs is coming in May. Also, the Briar is a big event that we were very pleased to win that bid. So that will be happening February 2026. So that is part of this fiscal. So that will have to be paid out. We also were successful with the Women's U18 Hockey Championships, which will be happening in November. So that will have to be paid out this fiscal. And there's a number of events we're also exploring with our partners right now, and obviously until they're announced we can't say what they are, but we're working hard to attract events to the province.
I know that there was an announcement for the Allen Cup to be coming to CBS. Are we funding that in any way?
No, we weren't involved with
that. Okay. Moving on to 3.1.06. Last year you indicated that we were heading for a record-setting year. Did we achieve record numbers?
Mr. Crocker?
Sorry, at the rooms?
Yes.
The rooms. Yeah, so last year the rooms welcomed over 150,000 visitors, which was an 8% increase over 23-24. Yeah, and memberships, more importantly, have grown by 19% to 1,800 members in 24-25. The Rooms continues to be a success story without a doubt. And last year, thanks to MHA Abbott, we were able to provide funding through transportation and infrastructure for a 5-year, $5 million commitment to for infrastructure upgrades.
We were glad to work with Minister Abbott on that at that time too. Commitment to the Ocean Ranger legacy, is that reflected in the budget?
So that's an ongoing discussion. That's a very important, very interesting project that's going to take some time. The Rooms has to be a very important part of that conversation. We have a person from the department who, I guess, liaisons, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, who liaisons with the committee. But, you know, that's an important project that we're continuing to work on. But there's some time. This is early stages. There's some timeline in front of that yet. Transfer between museum and museum is not always simple and involves some
cost.
Negotiation.
Yeah,
right.
And but there's also a lot of protocol that it needs to take place, and that's
100%.
But when we were at the initial meeting at the Marine Institute, I believe that one of the people, I guess, that were in the caucus of the government of today committed to being fully funding a certain project or to be on board and partner with this.
Yeah, certainly on board to partner and certainly supportive. But we have to figure out, like, what it is the infrastructure required. For starters, it has to be a transfer from museum to museum.
Yep.
Museums will not transfer to government. They will transfer to a museum. So it'll be, you know, the museum in Ottawa working with the Rooms. Some of these artifacts are quite large, extremely large. So, you know, there's still a lot of work to do here. We want to be a part of it. We will be a part of it. But there is still a lot of work to be done here on how we actually do this, receive it, what the actual transfer looks like. So there is some serious timeline in front of this.
Yeah. And that's the reason why I asked it under this header, for the simple fact that I know about the transfer from museum to museum protocols and stuff like that. So it's very important that we get this right, but I think that this is the right place to house it. And I think that the other thing is that when we're looking at it, I think it needs to be housed in its own bricks and mortar type of thing, as opposed to being lumped into something else, because I think it's something that significantly is a part of our heritage, but it's also something that significantly changed the oil and gas industry.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. And the way I see this, and I think, you know, I'm not trying to do the vision of the committee or the group doing this, but I think they see this in a lot of ways as similar to the Sealing Museum in Elliston, in the way that, you know, this is not necessarily a project of government. This could be a project of government, industry, foundations, and others. And I think from my knowledge around this is, you know, that is a model that I think that they're exploring, similar to the Sealers Memorial Museum in Elliston.
And I just wanted to be on record that we're committed to working with the Ocean Ranger Legacy Group. This is the second year of government's 5-year commitment for capital improvements at the Rooms. What are the capital improvements planned for this fiscal year?
Do you have 25, 26, or we haven't received it?
Okay, so all I have at this point is the summary of last year's plan. Okay. But obviously they would now work on their plan, because obviously post-budget, to bring it to the board. And the board, I don't think, has approved the capital plan yet for 25, 26, but we can certainly provide that when it becomes available.
Okay, please, and I'd appreciate that. Thank you. And that's it for this section, and I'll be ready for film and television next.
MHA, Dean, do you have any further questions? All right, I ask the clerk to recall the subheadings, please.
3.1.01 to 3.1.07, inclusive arts and culture.
Shall 3.1.01 to 3.1.07. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Carried. I ask the clerk to call the next set of headings.
4.1.01 to 4.2.03 inclusive, film, television, and recreation.
4.1.01 to 4.2.03. We will take questions, and MHA Dwyer.
How many jobs are believed to be currently active in our film industry in the last 2 years?
I think the employment.
MHA.
I think the employment number is sustaining around 1,200. 1,455 FTEs.
Last year we talked about how hard it was to capture the value in TV and film, yet we see glowing numbers all the time to support further investment. Can we see the analysis of how government calculates this value?
There's the COA report, Ben, correct?
Yeah, there is an COA report that we can certainly get you a copy of.
Thank you. Last year we highlighted as well that many of these productions were delinquent in terms of their payments as per these agreements. Have we received these payments, and is government doing anything to recoup this money, and what is still outstanding?
I know not of you speak. I delinquent in.
But isn't there a repayment program for upfront costs?
The equity program?
Yeah.
The equity program returns, so
they get 40% of like their production costs, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's a tax credit.
Oh, okay.
That's an all-spend tax credit. So they don't. That's not money that they receive. That's purely based on receipt. Like they don't get that money until they provide us with receipt. If they don't spend it, they don't get it.
So we re-announced also the $10 million for continued support for the film and TV industry, and it's an equity investment program. How many applications did we receive, and how many were actually approved?
Yeah, there was 37 supported through the equity program in the last fiscal. 4 were large budget series: Hudson Rec, Son of a Critch, St. Pierre, and Reacher. We had 1 feature film, 20 low-budget television films, 7 documentary, and 6 shorts.
Was the program funding exhausted?
Yes.
Moving on to sport and recreation, there have been numerous announcements for recreation, sport, and physical activity in the last few months. Increased money for Active NL is one example, but yet we're not seeing this reflected in the budget this year. Minister, what lawns should we look at to see the increases for Active NL, the fourplex study, the Dome, Newfoundland Labrador Games?
Active NL is reflected in 10.
Labrador Winter Games, and the list goes on. Is the future funding in future budgets?
So there's a lot in there I'm going to try and unpack.
Yeah.
420110 USC Active NL is reflected in that grant.
Yes.
Your next question was around the multiplex.
Yeah, the fourplex and the Dome.
Again, that's TI.
Okay.
Yeah, that's sort of fourplex. That's a TI investment. I think that was outlined in the budget on Monday. When you go to 4202, you would see an increase there for operations of the Fortis Center and the Wellbeing Dome. That would be in 4.2.02. That increase there in operating for the Newfoundland Labrador Sports Center would reflect the Fortis Center and the Dome.
Okay. There's what about the Newfoundland Labrador Games programs and the Labrador Winter Games?
That also, the Labrador Games would fall into the Department of Labrador Affairs, and the increase to Newfoundland Labrador Games program would fall into 4.2.0110, and that was the $350,000 increase.
Okay. There's a lot of people, I guess, talking the street. There's some people that think the Aqua Arena will be ready on time, and others feel that it might not be. Will this facility be ready for the Canada Games, and will our athletes be able to train there prior to the games opening?
So it will be ready for the games. You know, Mon is doing, and I got to take a moment just to give Mon a big shout out for the work that they've done in this. You know, there was a lot of people, a lot of skeptics, a lot of people on the street that didn't think that Mon would ever pull this off, but they've pulled it off. There's water in the pool. Things are looking ship-shape down there. Still some work to be done. It's always our intention to support Team NL, but I can assure you that, you know, we've made allocations. If Team NL needs to go outside to train, go outside for qualification, to qualify, you know, the government of Newfoundland and Labrador's responsibility to the Canada Summer Games is to Team NL, and we will not shirk our responsibility to Team NL.
So is that money in the budget? Is that money reflected in the budget this year?
Yes, it's annual. It's reflected actually annually. We put money every year ramping up to Canada Games programs every single year, and it's a 4-year cycle, and it ramps as you get closer. So our program of excellence increases, and our program of excellence is actually done independently. So, you know, sometimes there's some controversies around, you know, why didn't this team receive or that team? You know, that's done independently on the, I guess, our version of Own the Podium.
Okay. So is the Aqua Arena then on budget, like, or had they gone over budget on repairs, or?
No, certainly not. No.
And, so it was tendered, and it would.
It's like tendered, awarded, and nearing completion.
Okay. Where can we find the $500,000 that was announced for a year of the sport?
Any money that was announced for year of sport is in Celebrate NL's $5 million.
Okay. Then under your sports centers, the increase there, is that just salaries?
What tab is that?
4.2.02.
No, that's the increase of operations for the Fortis Center, because the Newfoundland Labrador Sports Center will operate once the Fortis Center is completed and the keys are turned over. It will be operated by the Newfoundland Labrador Sports Center as would be the Dome.
And that's the situation where it's going to be utilized for health and Newfoundland Health Services in the daytime?
That's the Dome.
Yeah, and then in the evening it's
the sports center will utilize it as a turf facility. Okay. And, you know, and obviously the sports center will also operate the new Fortis Center.
And we're still staying away from being competitive with the private operaters that were already in place?
Absolutely. This is about making, there's tons of opportunity out there, and this is about,
extra,
you know,
space.
A soft surface, more soft surface.
Okay. Are there capital expenditures on time and on budget?
Again, that's a TI question, but I know the Fortis Center is all but completed. I think TI is actually right now, if not already completed, doing the final walkthroughs of the Fortis Center, and we should actually have the keys to the Fortis Center in the coming days, maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. One of the things that has come to my attention over the last couple of years, I guess, is one thing that we don't really support going outside the province nationally or internationally is darts for their travel. And I just think that that's a missed opportunity, because they're going everywhere with the logos of Newfoundland Labrador. Sometimes their whole shirt is draped of a Newfoundland flag. I just think that the travel subsidy that has been, you know, afforded, I guess, to other sports teams that are representing Newfoundland and Labrador, both nationally and internationally, I think that it's a great opportunity that's being missed not to help out our dart players. So just wondering if we have any initiative to look at that.
That's something we could refer back to Sport NL. You know, our funding for travel is done through the PSOs, and the PSOs obviously are governed by Sport NL. But yeah, we could certainly bring that back to Sport NL for them to have a look at. But they are the governing body of the PSOs.
My very last question, while I have 40 seconds left, is about our Tourism Enhancement Fund. Has that been kept at the $13 million level, or did we go back to the $5 million level?
Tourism Enhancement?
Yeah.
That was a one-time program coming out of COVID.
Yeah, and so the thing is, like, we're finding now with a lot of our hoteliers that they're their shoulder season, I guess, from Christmas to Easter is a little bit drastic in many areas. Is there an initiative to help them get over that burden?
So that was a one-time initiative that we did coming out of COVID. That was a one-time program. Okay. Again, they would, if a hotel operator was expanding or doing something in that area, that would be a conversation with IET. Okay. But you did see supports in this week's budget for our hospitality industry, whether it's the important commitment to our restaurant sector, which is our local restaurant sector is in a very precarious situation at the moment, and you did see the long request from Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador for the decrease at NLC, and I can tell you industry is very thankful that was a long-time piece of funding that they've been looking for a break on.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it for my questions, but I'll have some closing remarks.
Dean.
Thank you. I know you've touched on this already, but with regards to the number of television and film productions that are expected to produce in the province this year, I know you've listed a number, but are there any new ones being proposed other than, let's say, I think St. Pierre, Son of a Critch,
Rex.
Right?
Yeah. There's nothing new in the hopper that we're aware of this year. And this is not a complaint. This is a good situation to find ourselves in. We need to continue to grow our capacity because, when I came into this role 4 years ago, we were shooting one series at a time. Now we're shooting, we regularly now have Hudson and Rex and Son of a Critch filming at the same time. And our industry is working really well together because last year, for example, St. Pierre shot pre-Son of a Critch and post-Son of a Critch because getting the infrastructure that's needed to shoot these two big shows at the same time is challenging. So we see great cooperation within the industry, and the role for CNA in the film school, I think graduated 80 students last year. It's at pretty much capacity, and this is the human resource challenge is there, and we need to grow that. And what's extremely encouraging in that is the fact that we are now practically, other than the dead of winter, we always have something filming. And this year, the Netflix, our industry is going to be able to accommodate what I would think would be Rex and Son of a Critch filming pretty much at the same time as Netflix filming. So it's stressful, I think, for the industry, but that's what helps grow the industry and making sure that those jobs are not just one series at a time, but so those people can go series to series to series.
Thanks. I've had the opportunity to visit both the sets of Son of a Critch and St. Pierre, so it's pretty impressive. Like, I guess just in the use of the buildings, I guess, that are no longer being warehouses. But I'm assuming at some point maybe there's infrastructure building their own, I guess, their own film production sites. But
yeah, we've seen, and I'm not going to try and find the company name. The owners of St. Pierre actually purchased a very large building out off Topsail Road for their sound stage, and that's encouraging when you see locals investing in buildings. To that's a commitment to industry, and and I know. I know Alan Hocko is a major part of that purchase and others, but when we see that type of investment where we see locals actually going out and buying these buildings, it shows a commitment to industry.
Oh, it's impressive indeed. What's the budget for market development and awareness activities out of this field? And I guess the investment.
Yeah, so that's all done through Picture. That's done through Picture NL. They do a tremendous job. They attend trade shows and film events all around the world, whether it's Berlin, TIFF, Ireland this past year, London. So they travel the world selling Newfoundland and Labrador to prospective studios.
Perfect. 4.1.02 Newfoundland and Labrador Film Development Corporation capital. Is it possible to have a list of the film development companies that receive funding along with total amounts from this pot?
Yes. Yep.
And some of the other ones have been asked and answered. One last question then. There have been a number of high-profile cases of abuse in sports by coaches and other professionals, and I'm just wondering what mechanisms does Sport NL have to prevent such cases and to deal with them properly once they arise?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and one that we talked a lot about going into Year of Sport, and something that needs to be highlighted when we talk about sport. So through an initiative of the federal government and my colleagues across Canada, the federal government, fair to say mandated? The federal government mandated a third-party mechanism. They offered one through the feds, but they also give us the opportunity to go out and solicit our own third-party adjudicator through Sport NL. So we provided Sport NL funding last year for safe sport, and we'll continue that funding. But there is a mechanism, there is a new formal third-party complaint mechanism now in place.
Perfect. Thank you. And that's it for me.
I see no further questions. Any more questions? MHA Dwayne? All right. I ask the clerk to call the final tally.
4.1.01 to 4.2.03, inclusive, film, television, and recreation.
Shall 4.1.01 to 4.2.03. All those in favor? Against? Carried. Shall the total carry? All those in favor? All those against? Carry. Shall I report the estimates of Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts and Recreation? All those in favor? All those against? Carried. This is the conclusion of this session. I'd like to thank the Minister and departments and all the officials for coming today, and of course the clerks for their time. I ask the Minister now if he'd like to have some closing remarks.
I'll turn it over to MH Dwyer first, or MHA Dean, or anybody else if they'd like to.
MHA Dwyer.
Again, I'd like to thank the staff, and I'd like to thank the Minister for his answers today. They're not answers like some are stats and stuff that you had to read out and stuff like that. But being in tune with the department and working with me on a regular basis, I really do appreciate it. It's a very open and forthright relationship that I believe in the things and the initiatives that we're doing. Just one example was being at the H&L conference. It's such an important conference, but just the spirit of what our operators are offering and the support that we're giving them, I think it makes a big difference with developing our industry and our department from going from $1 billion industry to a $2 billion industry, I think, in short time. There's lots of good initiatives. There's lots of things that need improvement, and we can continue to work on. But I think that's the whole point that I'm trying to make, is that as long as we keep the communication open, there's no, I don't think there's anybody got cornered on all good ideas. So, like I said, it's about working together, and it's about making sure that the taxpayers' money is, we're getting 3 nickels out of every dime, I guess. And like I said, that's a reflection of your staff. And making sure that they're fiscally responsible. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for being here, especially the Finance Minister, because the increase in funding to this department is well warranted. And but we would have got free coffee off the Minister if it hadn't been for the NDP asking so many questions. I'm just joking, but no, it was a great process, and to do this year after year shows that the progression of the department, and I'm glad where things are going, and willing to work on anything else that we can support as well. So thank you very much for your time, everybody, and I appreciate it.
MHA Dean, closing remarks.
I think the record will show that we probably asked fewer questions than our colleagues to the left. And certainly last night what drove us into overtime was not the NDP, but hey, who was counting? I do want to thank the Minister and his staff. I know that when we look at some of the other portfolios, whether it's housing or healthcare, it's how crucial those are. But I will say, in sort of diversifying the economy and moving beyond, I guess, like when you look at the basics that what we lived on, what we produced so far in our history. This is about it's. I guess not an intellectual, but that kind of skill, specialized skill that we will grow, we can only grow, and it's a beautiful province that has so much diverse scenery, not only for visiting, but also for filming. I guess the best part of looking at any film produced here is to figure out where the location is at the time, and if I really know it. But it's impressive to go into some of these facilities in the film industry. On Topsail Road is impressive. Just not only the actors, but the tradespeople and the professionals around there. And you look at the skills that are being developed there. Tourism. And it's who would have thought that we would have a cruise ship industry? Here we do, but we do. The War Memorial it's probably one of the significant highlights for sure. For me personally, I think visiting being part of the delegation to Gallipoli was one that still sits with me, and. Having students being able to go over there at part of the Trail of the Caribou, I think is significant. It's not until we've learned about it. I've been to Vimy Ridge. I've taught about when it came to Gallipoli or Beaumont Hamel, but it's not until you walk on the sands and the beach where young Newfoundlanders lived and fought and died, and you see people there not much older than those I taught in high school, that you realize just the significance of the sacrifice. So, to me, this is you're the department that's the front-facing part of the province in many ways, and you're bringing Newfoundland to the world. And to me, that's an important part. And I thank you for your work and for answering the questions today. Thank you.
Minister Crocker.
Thank you to my colleagues this morning for sitting through the estimates. I think this is the 10th time I've done this, and you never know if it's your last. But Premier Ball always used to say the best time to understand your department is through the estimates process, to sit down and spend that amount of time actually having to review everything that happens in the department. So, and listen, this department is a very important piece of the fabric of Newfoundland and Labrador. It's certainly been my pleasure to serve in this chair for almost 4 years. But again, thank you to the committee. Thank you to the staff. They do all the hard work. I'm just the good-looking face of it all.
Thank you, Mr. Crocker.
But so again, thank you to everybody here this morning, and thank you to the committee, and look forward to continuing the budget debate in the coming weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Crocker. That concludes the estimates. The next meeting is Tuesday, April 15th at 6 p.m. and that's Environment and Climate Change. I'm going to call now for a motion to adjourn. Motion moved by Minister Cody, second by MHA Forsey. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Carried. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Thank you very much for attending.